The sun was just beginning to rise over London when Prince William walked into his private office at Kensington Palace. He carried his morning cup of tea and expected another routine day filled with official meetings and paperwork. The large wooden desk was already covered with documents that needed his attention. Outside his window, the palace gardens looked peaceful in the early morning light. His private secretary, James, knocked softly on the heavy wooden door. William looked up from the papers he was reading and called for him to enter. James walked in carrying a thick folder and wore an expression that William had learned meant something important was about to happen. "Good morning, Your Royal Highness," James said as he placed the folder on the desk. "I have something quite special that I think you and the princess should see immediately." William set down his teacup and opened the folder. Inside were dozens of letters, all written in the same childish handwriting. The papers were different colors and sizes, some on official school paper and others on pages torn from notebooks. Many had small drawings in the corners of flowers, hearts, and castles. The first letter was dated 3 months ago. It began with "Dear Princess Kate" in careful, shaky letters. William read slowly as the words told the story of an 8-year-old girl named Emma who was fighting cancer. She wrote about watching Kate on television and how she helped other children. Emma said that Kate was her hero because she was kind to everyone she met. As William continued reading through the letters, he saw how Emma's handwriting had become weaker over time. The little girl wrote about her treatments, her time in the hospital, and how thinking about Princess Kate helped her feel brave. In one letter, Emma drew a picture of herself and Kate having tea together. She wrote that meeting Kate was her biggest dream in the whole world. The most recent letter was written just 2 days ago. Emma explained that she was going to have a big surgery soon and was very scared. She wrote that if she could meet Kate just once, she would be the happiest girl in England. The letter ended with Emma saying that even if Kate was too busy, she would understand because princesses had very important work to do. William felt his throat tighten as he read Emma's words. This brave little girl had been writing letters for months, never asking for anything except the chance to meet Kate. She wrote about how Kate's charity work inspired her and made her want to help other children when she got better. James explained that the letters had been coming to the palace regularly. The staff had been deeply moved by Emma's persistence and the genuine love she expressed for Kate's work. The hospital where Emma was staying had contacted the palace to let them know about her upcoming surgery. The doctors wanted to do something special for their brave patient. William immediately thought about Kate and how she would react to these letters. He knew his wife would be as touched as he was by Emma's courage and sweetness. Kate had always had a special connection with children, and reading about Emma's admiration would mean everything to her. He asked James to contact Kate immediately and arrange for her to come to his office. William also requested that the hospital be contacted to arrange a meeting. This was not something that could wait for the usual scheduling processes. Emma's surgery was in just a few days, and if they were going to help make her dream come true, it had to happen quickly. While waiting for Kate to arrive, William read through more of Emma's letters. Each one showed the spirit of a remarkable little girl who faced her illness with hope and grace. She wrote about her favorite books, her pet goldfish, and her dream of becoming a teacher someday. Emma wanted to help other children learn and grow, just like Kate helped children through her charity work. The morning sun was now fully streaming through the office windows when Kate arrived. William handed her the folder without saying a word. As Kate began reading Emma's letters, William watched his wife's expression change from curiosity to deep emotion. He knew that their day was about to change completely, and that a little girl's dream was about to come true in ways she never could have imagined. Kate sat in the comfortable chair across from William's desk, holding Emma's letters with trembling hands. Tears had formed in her eyes as she read each carefully written page. The little girl's words touched her heart in a way that made her forget about everything else she had planned for the day. William watched his wife's face change from surprise to deep emotion as she discovered Emma's story. Kate had always been drawn to helping children, and reading about this brave 8-year-old made her want to act immediately. She looked up at William with determination in her eyes. "We have to meet her," Kate said softly. "This little girl has been writing to us for months, and she's about to have major surgery. We cannot let her down." William nodded in agreement. He had already been thinking the same thing. They both knew that their schedules were completely full for the next several days, but this was more important than any official meeting or ceremony they had planned. Kate stood up and began pacing around the office, her mind already working on how to make this happen. She asked James to contact the hospital immediately to arrange a surprise visit. The word surprise was important because Kate wanted Emma to be genuinely shocked and delighted, not nervous from waiting and preparing for their arrival. While James made the necessary phone calls, Kate hurried to her private rooms to choose the perfect outfit for meeting Emma. She looked through her wardrobe carefully, wanting to wear something that would make a little girl smile. She chose a bright yellow dress because she remembered reading that children often responded well to cheerful, sunny colors. Kate then went to the palace gift room, where special presents were kept for occasions like this. She spent nearly an hour selecting items that she thought Emma would love. There was a beautiful book about brave princesses, a soft stuffed animal that looked like a friendly dragon, and a small jewelry box that played a gentle melody when opened. But Kate wanted to do something even more personal. She sat down at her writing desk and began creating a handmade card for Emma. Using colored pencils and markers, she drew pictures of castles, flowers, and smiling faces. Inside the card, she wrote a message telling Emma how brave and special she was. Meanwhile, William was coordinating with their security team to plan the visit. This type of unscheduled appearance required careful planning to ensure everyone's safety while maintaining the element of surprise. The security officers had to contact the hospital's administration and work out all the details without alerting the media or creating a disturbance. Kate also called her personal assistant to cancel all her appointments for the afternoon. She explained that something urgent had come up and that she needed to be available for an important visit. Her assistant, who had worked with Kate for years, immediately understood that this was something special and began rearranging the entire schedule. The hospital staff were contacted and asked to keep the visit completely confidential. The doctors and nurses were excited about the surprise, but promised to maintain absolute secrecy until William and Kate actually arrived at the hospital. They began preparing Emma's room and the children's ward for their very special visitors. Kate spent time researching Emma's interests based on what the little girl had written in her letters. She learned about Emma's favorite movies, books, and activities so that their conversation would feel natural and personal. Kate wanted Emma to feel like she was talking to a friend, not just meeting a famous person. As the afternoon approached, Kate felt both nervous and excited. She had met many children during her royal duties, but this felt different and more personal. Emma had reached out to them through her letters, sharing her fears and dreams with complete honesty. Kate felt a responsibility to make this meeting everything that Emma had hoped it would be. The car was prepared for their journey to the hospital, with the gifts and handmade card carefully packed. Kate took one last look at Emma's letters before they left the palace, reminding herself of why this visit was so important to a brave little girl who just wanted to meet her hero. The black royal car pulled slowly into the side entrance of the London Children's Hospital at exactly 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Kate looked out the window and saw a small group of hospital staff members waiting by the door, their faces filled with excitement and nervous energy. Even though the visit was supposed to be a complete secret, word had somehow spread among the doctors and nurses. William stepped out of the car first and immediately began greeting the hospital staff with his usual warm smile. Kate followed, carrying her handmade card and the carefully selected gifts for Emma. She wore her bright yellow dress that seemed to bring sunshine to the gray hospital entrance. Several nurses whispered excitedly to each other as they recognized the royal couple. The hospital director, Dr. Sarah Mitchell, approached them with slightly shaking hands. She had been working at the hospital for 20 years, but had never hosted such important visitors with so little advance notice. "Good afternoon, Your Royal Highnesses," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "We are absolutely delighted to have you here today." Kate immediately put Dr. Mitchell at ease with her genuine smile and friendly manner. She asked about the hospital and how long Dr. Mitchell had been working there. Kate had a natural ability to make people feel comfortable, even in unusual situations like this surprise visit. As they walked through the hospital corridors toward the children's ward, other families and visitors began to notice who was walking past them. Parents pointed quietly and whispered to their children, while hospital staff members stopped their work to watch the royal couple pass by. The excitement was spreading through the building like wildfire. The children's ward was on the 4th floor, and they took the elevator up together. During the short ride, Kate asked Dr. Mitchell about Emma's condition and treatment. She wanted to understand exactly what the little girl had been going through so that she could be sensitive during their conversation. When the elevator doors opened, they could see that the children's ward had been decorated with colorful balloons and drawings. The nursing staff had worked quickly to make the area look as cheerful as possible for their special visitors. Children in wheelchairs and their parents had gathered in the hallway, hoping to catch a glimpse of the famous couple. Kate could not walk past the other young patients without stopping to say hello. She knelt down to speak with a 6-year-old boy who was receiving treatment for a broken leg. She asked him about his favorite games and complimented the cast that was covered with signatures from his friends and family. William joined a conversation with a teenage girl who was reading a book about astronomy. She explained that she wanted to become a scientist when she grew up, and William encouraged her dreams while asking intelligent questions about her studies. The girl's parents watched with amazement as the future king showed genuine interest in their daughter's goals. Each interaction felt natural and unforced, as if Kate and William were simply visiting friends rather than fulfilling royal duties. The hospital staff observed how easily the couple connected with the children and their families. There was nothing artificial or rushed about their conversations. Dr. Mitchell watched in admiration as Kate and William took time with each child they encountered. She had seen many celebrities visit the hospital over the years, but none had shown such genuine care and interest in actually getting to know the young patients. Finally, they reached the corridor where Emma's room was located. Kate took a deep breath and adjusted the gifts in her arms. She could feel her heart beating faster as they approached the door. This was the moment that Emma had been dreaming about for months, and Kate wanted everything to be perfect for the brave little girl who had written so many hopeful letters. The hallway grew quiet as they stopped outside Emma's room, preparing for a meeting that would change a little girl's life forever. Emma's hospital room was small but filled with color and life. The walls were covered with dozens of drawings that she had created during her long stay at the hospital. There were pictures of rainbows, butterflies, castles, and princesses. A large window let in the afternoon sunlight, making the colorful artwork seem to glow against the white hospital walls. Emma sat propped up in her hospital bed, wearing pink pajamas decorated with tiny hearts. Her hair had grown back in soft curls after her last round of treatment, and she was concentrating on coloring a picture of a magnificent castle. Crayons were scattered across her bed table, and she held a purple crayon in her small hand. Her mother, Mrs. Susan Parker, sat in a chair beside the bed reading a magazine. She looked tired from the many weeks of staying at the hospital with Emma, but she maintained a cheerful attitude for her daughter's sake. Neither Emma nor her mother had any idea that their afternoon was about to become magical. Kate knocked gently on the door and waited for permission to enter. "Come in," called Mrs. Parker, expecting to see a nurse or doctor. Instead, Kate stepped into the room wearing her sunny yellow dress and carrying gifts, followed by William, who stayed near the doorway. Emma looked up from her coloring, and her purple crayon fell from her hand onto the bed. Her eyes grew as wide as saucers, and her mouth opened in complete shock. She stared at Kate for several seconds without saying a word, as if she was trying to convince herself that this was really happening. Mrs. Parker immediately began crying happy tears when she realized who had entered their room. She had read every single one of Emma's letters and knew how much this moment meant to her daughter. She stood up quickly, trying to compose herself while wiping tears from her eyes. "Hello, Emma. Kate said softly as she approached the bed. "I received all of your beautiful letters, and I wanted to come and meet you in person." Emma still could not speak. She looked back and forth between Kate and her mother, then at William standing by the door, then back at Kate again. Finally, she whispered in a voice so quiet that Kate had to lean closer to hear her. "Are you really Princess Kate?" Emma asked, her voice filled with wonder and disbelief. Kate smiled warmly and nodded. "Yes, I really am Kate, and this is my husband, William. We read every single letter you wrote to us, and we think you are absolutely wonderful." Kate carefully sat down on the edge of Emma's hospital bed, being mindful of all the medical equipment around them. She admired the castle drawing that Emma had been working on and asked about all the different colors she had used. Kate's genuine interest in Emma's artwork helped the little girl begin to relax and believe that this was actually happening. Emma began to find her voice and started explaining her drawing. She pointed to different parts of the castle and told Kate about the princess who lived there and all the adventures she had helping other people. Kate listened to every word with complete attention, asking questions and making comments that showed she was truly interested in Emma's creative story. William watched from his position near the door, giving Kate and Emma their special moment together. He could see how naturally Kate connected with the little girl and how Emma's entire face had transformed from shock to pure joy. The room seemed to fill with warmth and happiness as the two talked together. Mrs. Parker continued to cry quietly, overwhelmed by seeing her daughter so incredibly happy. For months, Emma had been talking about Princess Kate and dreaming about this meeting. Now it was actually happening, and it was even more wonderful than Emma had imagined. Kate noticed Emma's collection of books on the bedside table and asked about her favorite stories. Emma excitedly began telling Kate about brave princesses and magical adventures, completely forgetting that she was talking to a real princess. The conversation flowed naturally, as if they were old friends catching up after a long time apart. The afternoon sunlight continued to stream through the window, highlighting the joy and wonder on Emma's face as her biggest dream came true right there in her small hospital room. Emma's hospital room was small but filled with color and life. The walls were covered with dozens of drawings that she had created during her long stay at the hospital. There were pictures of rainbows, butterflies, castles, and princesses. A large window let in the afternoon sunlight, making the colorful artwork seem to glow against the white hospital walls. Emma sat propped up in her hospital bed, wearing pink pajamas decorated with tiny hearts. Her hair had grown back in soft curls after her last round of treatment, and she was concentrating on coloring a picture of a magnificent castle. Crayons were scattered across her bed table, and she held a purple crayon in her small hand. Her mother, Mrs. Susan Parker, sat in a chair beside the bed reading a magazine. She looked tired from the many weeks of staying at the hospital with Emma, but she maintained a cheerful attitude for her daughter's sake. Neither Emma nor her mother had any idea that their afternoon was about to become magical. Kate knocked gently on the door and waited for permission to enter. "Come in," called Mrs. Parker, expecting to see a nurse or doctor. Instead, Kate stepped into the room wearing her sunny yellow dress and carrying gifts, followed by William, who stayed near the doorway. Emma looked up from her coloring, and her purple crayon fell from her hand onto the bed. Her eyes grew as wide as saucers, and her mouth opened in complete shock. She stared at Kate for several seconds without saying a word, as if she was trying to convince herself that this was really happening. Mrs. Parker immediately began crying happy tears when she realized who had entered their room. She had read every single one of Emma's letters and knew how much this moment meant to her daughter. She stood up quickly, trying to compose herself while wiping tears from her eyes. "Hello, Emma," Kate said softly as she approached the bed. "I received all of your beautiful letters, and I wanted to come and meet you in person." Emma still could not speak. She looked back and forth between Kate and her mother, then at William standing by the door, then back at Kate again. Finally, she whispered in a voice so quiet that Kate had to lean closer to hear her. "Are you really Princess Kate?" Emma asked, her voice filled with wonder and disbelief. Kate smiled warmly and nodded. Yes, I really am Kate, and this is my husband, William. We read every single letter you wrote to us, and we think you are absolutely wonderful. Kate carefully sat down on the edge of Emma's hospital bed, being mindful of all the medical equipment around them. She admired the castle drawing that Emma had been working on and asked about all the different colors she had used. Kate's genuine interest in Emma's artwork helped the little girl begin to relax and believe that this was actually happening. Emma began to find her voice and started explaining her drawing. She pointed to different parts of the castle and told Kate about the princess who lived there and all the adventures she had helping other people. Kate listened to every word with complete attention, asking questions and making comments that showed she was truly interested in Emma's creative story. William watched from his position near the door, giving Kate and Emma their special moment together. He could see how naturally Kate connected with the little girl and how Emma's entire face had transformed from shock to pure joy. The room seemed to fill with warmth and happiness as the two talked together. Mrs. Parker continued to cry quietly, overwhelmed by seeing her daughter so incredibly happy. For months, Emma had been talking about Princess Kate and dreaming about this meeting. Now it was actually happening, and it was even more wonderful than Emma had imagined. Kate noticed Emma's collection of books on the bedside table and asked about her favorite stories. Emma excitedly began telling Kate about brave princesses and magical adventures, completely forgetting that she was talking to a real princess. The conversation flowed naturally, as if they were old friends catching up after a long time apart. The afternoon sunlight continued to stream through the window, highlighting the joy and wonder on Emma's face as her biggest dream came true right there in her small hospital room. The afternoon sun had moved across the sky, casting a warm golden light through Emma's hospital room window. The conversation between Kate and Emma had been flowing for over an hour, and both had forgotten about everything else happening outside that small, colorful room. Emma had shared her fears, dreams, and hopes with Kate, while Kate had listened with the kind of attention that made Emma feel truly heard and understood. Suddenly, Emma's expression became very serious. She looked directly into Kate's eyes and took a deep breath, as if she was gathering courage to say something very important. Kate sensed the change in mood and waited patiently, giving Emma all the time she needed to find her words. "Princess Kate," Emma said quietly, "I need to tell you something that I have been thinking about every day. I am really scared about my surgery tomorrow. The doctors say it will help me get better, but I keep thinking about what might happen." Kate felt her heart tighten as she listened to Emma's honest confession. The little girl's voice was small and vulnerable, so different from the excited chatter they had been sharing just moments before. Kate could see the fear in Emma's eyes, the same fear that any child would feel when facing such a big medical procedure. Emma continued speaking, her words coming slowly and carefully. "But you know what," she said, "meeting you today has made me feel different inside. When I wrote all those letters, I hoped that maybe you would read them and think about me sometimes. I never dreamed that you would actually come to see me." Kate squeezed Emma's hand gently, encouraging her to continue sharing her feelings. Emma's mother watched from her chair, her own eyes filling with tears as she listened to her daughter's brave words. "If someone as special as you believes that I am brave and strong, then maybe I really am," Emma whispered. "Will you think about me tomorrow when I am having my surgery? Will you send me some of your courage to help me be brave?" At this question, Kate felt tears beginning to form in her own eyes. She was deeply moved by Emma's request and by the trust this little girl was placing in her. Kate had met many children during her royal duties, but Emma's honest vulnerability touched her heart in a completely new way. "Of course I will think about you," Kate said softly, her voice slightly shaky with emotion. "I will be sending you all of my love and courage, and I know that you are going to do wonderfully. You are one of the bravest people I have ever met, Emma." Emma smiled through her own tears and then surprised everyone in the room by asking a question that came straight from her heart. "Princess Kate, would it be okay if I gave you a hug?" I have been dreaming about hugging you for such a long time." Kate's tears finally spilled over as she nodded and opened her arms to Emma. The little girl carefully moved forward in her hospital bed, mindful of the tubes and wires connected to her, and wrapped her thin arms around Kate's neck. Kate held Emma gently but firmly, feeling the little girl's small body trembling slightly with emotion. Both Kate and Emma cried softly as they embraced, sharing a moment of pure human connection that went far beyond royal protocols or formal procedures. William, who had been watching quietly from near the door, felt his own eyes becoming misty as he witnessed this touching scene between his wife and the brave little girl. Mrs. Parker could no longer hold back her own tears as she watched her daughter receiving comfort and encouragement from someone she admired so deeply. The room was filled with love, hope, and the kind of genuine emotion that comes from hearts connecting across all boundaries. The hug lasted for several long moments, neither Kate nor Emma wanting to let go of this perfect moment they had created together. News of the surprise royal visit had begun spreading through the hospital corridors like gentle waves rippling across a peaceful pond. Hospital staff members whispered excitedly to each other as they went about their duties, and word quickly reached the other children's wards throughout the building. Young patients who had been resting in their rooms suddenly became alert and hopeful, wondering if they might also have a chance to meet the famous visitors. Dr. Mitchell approached Kate and William as they prepared to leave Emma's room, but she carried a request that would change their entire afternoon. Several other children had heard about the royal visit and were asking if they could possibly meet Kate and William too. The doctor explained that many of these young patients have been in the hospital for weeks or even months, and a visit from the royal couple would mean the world to them. Kate looked at William, and without even speaking, they both knew what their answer would be. Their original plan had been to spend an hour with Emma and then return to their royal duties, but seeing the hope and excitement that their presence had created made them want to stay longer. Kate asked Dr. Mitchell to show them to the other children who wanted to meet them. Their first stop was the room of 7-year-old Marcus, who had been recovering from a serious accident for over a month. When Kate and William entered his room, Marcus was so surprised that he forgot to be shy. He immediately began telling them about his favorite soccer team and asked William about his own sports interests. William spent 15 minutes discussing football with Marcus, treating him like any other sports fan rather than a patient in a hospital bed. In the next room, they met twin sisters named Lucy and Sarah, both 9 years old, who were being treated for the same rare condition. The girls had been feeling lonely and worried about their treatment, but when Kate sat between their beds and asked about their favorite books, their faces lit up with joy. Kate discovered that both girls loved adventure stories, and she spent time telling them about some of her own favorite childhood books. As Kate and William moved from room to room, they noticed how their presence seemed to transform the entire atmosphere of the children's ward. Parents who had been looking tired and stressed began smiling as they watched their children become animated and excited. Nurses and doctors found themselves grinning as they witnessed the joy that the royal visit was bringing to their young patients. 10-year-old James had been particularly quiet and withdrawn since arriving at the hospital 2 weeks earlier. His parents had been worried about his lack of interest in activities that usually made him happy. But when William asked James about his collection of model airplanes, the boy began talking enthusiastically for the first time since his hospitalization. William listened carefully as James explained how each model was built and what made different airplanes special. Kate spent extended time with 5-year-old Mia, who had been missing her own family terribly. Mia climbed onto Kate's lap and showed her a photo of her pet cat back home. Kate listened patiently as Mia told stories about her cat's funny habits and promised that she would see her pet again very soon. The little girl's mother watched with tears of gratitude as her daughter smiled genuinely for the first time in days. Each interaction felt natural and unforced, as if Kate and William were simply friends dropping by to visit, rather than fulfilling any kind of official duty. They asked thoughtful questions, remembered details from earlier conversations, and treated every child as if they were the most important person in the world. The hospital staff began to realize that they were witnessing something truly special. Many of them had worked with celebrities and public figures who visited the hospital, but none had ever shown such genuine care and interest in actually connecting with the children. Kate and William were not just making appearances, they were creating real relationships and meaningful moments. Word continued to spread throughout the hospital, and soon children from other floors were asking if the royal visitors might come to see them too. The afternoon that had been planned as a one-hour visit to Emma was turning into something much larger and more significant than anyone had anticipated. While Kate and William continued their extended visit inside the hospital, something unexpected was happening in the world outside. A nurse had taken a photo of the royal car in the hospital parking area and shared it on social media with excitement about the surprise visit. Within minutes, the image had been shared hundreds of times as people realized that Kate and William were making an unplanned appearance at the children's hospital. Local news stations began receiving phone calls from viewers who had seen the social media posts. Television reporters started gathering outside the hospital, hoping to catch a glimpse of the royal couple when they eventually emerged. The hospital's main phone line rang constantly as journalists tried to confirm the story and get more details about the visit. Inside the hospital, Kate and William remained completely focused on the children they were meeting, unaware of the growing excitement and media attention building outside. They had moved to the hospital's main children's ward, where even more young patients were hoping for a chance to meet them. Each child received individual attention and personal conversation that made them feel special and important. Emma's story had begun spreading across social media platforms as hospital staff, with her family's permission, shared the touching tale of the little girl who had written dozens of letters to Kate. People across the country were moved by Emma's persistence and courage, and many began sharing their own messages of support and encouragement for her upcoming surgery. The hashtag #EmmaandKate began trending on social media as thousands of people shared the story and expressed their admiration for both the brave little girl and the royal couple who had made her dream come true. News outlets picked up the story from social media and began broadcasting reports about the surprise hospital visit and the letters that had inspired it. Outside the hospital, a crowd of well-wishers had begun gathering on the sidewalks and in the nearby park. These were not just curious onlookers, but people who had been genuinely touched by Emma's story and wanted to show their support. Many brought flowers, cards, and small gifts that they hoped could be delivered to Emma and the other children in the hospital. Hospital security worked carefully to manage the growing crowd while ensuring that the privacy and safety of all patients and families were protected. The hospital administration was grateful for the positive attention, but wanted to make sure that the focus remained on the children and their well-being rather than on the celebrity aspect of the visit. Television news programs began featuring Emma's story as their lead item, sharing excerpts from her letters and explaining how her months of hopeful writing had led to this magical day. Child psychology experts appeared on news shows to discuss the positive impact that hope and dreams could have on young patients facing serious medical challenges. The story resonated with viewers because it represented something pure and genuine in a world that often felt complicated and difficult. Emma's simple desire to meet her hero, combined with Kate and William's spontaneous decision to make that dream come true, touched hearts across the nation and beyond. International news services picked up the story, and soon people in other countries were reading about the brave little girl from London and the princess who had taken time to visit her. Messages of support and encouragement began arriving at the hospital from around the world, all addressed to Emma and wishing her well for her surgery. Social media filled with photos and videos that people had taken outside the hospital, showing the growing crowd of supporters and the positive atmosphere that had developed. Local businesses began offering to donate toys, books, and other gifts to the children's hospital in honor of Emma's story and the royal visit. The afternoon that had begun as a private, secret visit to fulfill one little girl's dream had somehow grown into a moment of hope and inspiration that was touching thousands of people around the world. As the sun began to set over London, Kate and William finally prepared to leave the hospital after spending nearly 4 hours with the children and their families. What had been planned as a brief visit to meet Emma had transformed into an afternoon that touched dozens of young patients and created memories that would last their entire lifetimes. Emma was scheduled for surgery early the next morning, and Kate made a solemn promise that she would return to visit after the operation to see how Emma was recovering. The little girl gave Kate one of her most treasured drawings as a farewell gift. It was a picture of Kate and Emma holding hands, surrounded by hearts, flowers, and sunshine. Emma had been working on this drawing for weeks, hoping that someday she might be able to give it to her hero. Kate carefully folded the drawing and placed it in her purse, telling Emma that it would be kept in a very special place where she could look at it often. Emma's mother hugged Kate goodbye, whispering her gratitude for the joy and hope that the visit had brought to her daughter during such a difficult time. As Kate and William walked through the hospital corridors toward the exit, spontaneous applause began from the staff, patients, and families who had witnessed their extraordinary afternoon. The applause grew louder as they moved through each section of the hospital, with people clapping, cheering, and calling out words of thanks and admiration. Kate found herself wiping away tears as she walked through the corridor lined with smiling faces. She had been deeply moved by every child she had met and every story she had heard. The experience had reminded her of why she had chosen to focus her charitable work on helping children and families facing difficult circumstances. When they finally emerged from the hospital, the crowd that had gathered outside erupted in cheers and applause. People held signs thanking Kate and William for their kindness, and many shouted messages of support for Emma and her upcoming surgery. Kate and William waved to the crowd before getting into their car, both clearly emotional from the afternoon's experiences. Emma's surgery the following morning was completely successful. The doctors reported that the operation had gone exactly as planned, and Emma's recovery was proceeding better than they had hoped. True to her promise, Kate returned to the hospital 3 days later to visit Emma and see how she was feeling. The second visit was quieter and more private, but no less meaningful. Emma was sitting up in bed, still weak from surgery, but smiling brightly when Kate walked into her room. She told Kate about her dreams during the operation, saying that she had imagined they were having tea together in a beautiful garden, which had helped her feel brave and peaceful. Emma's story became a symbol of hope and resilience that inspired people far beyond the hospital walls. Schools across the country began letter-writing projects, encouraging students to reach out to children in hospitals and share messages of encouragement and friendship. The simple act of one little girl writing letters to her hero had created a movement of kindness and connection. Several months later, Emma had recovered completely from her surgery and was able to return to school. She threw herself into her studies with renewed energy and purpose, more determined than ever to become a teacher who could help and inspire other children. Emma often told her classmates about the day she met Princess Kate and how it had taught her that dreams really could come true. Years later, Emma did fulfill her dream of becoming a teacher. On her first day in her own classroom, she told her students about the importance of kindness, hope, and never giving up on their dreams. She kept Kate's photograph on her desk as a reminder of the day that changed her life and showed her that one person's caring heart could make all the difference in the world. The story of Emma and Kate became a lasting reminder that genuine human connection and compassion could transcend any barrier, and that sometimes the most powerful moments happen when people simply take time to care about each other. Retroclaude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses. Sonnet 4.